Chicago, welcome into the Chicago Sports Podcast presented by, it's good to hear that back, Goose Island, the official beer of CHGO Sports. You can find one of Goose Island's Chicago locations at gooseisland.com/locations. What's up, everyone? Happy Thursday. I'm Kevin Kaduk, head of content at CHGO.
Who the hell's next to you?
Luke Stuckmeyer. Filling in for Casey Standahar, although not really filling in because
his
show.
Whatever. His show, I don't know. Right. Welcome back.
Everybody wants to be Casey.
No, I mean, thanks for coming back. It's not like you've just ditched us for the last few months.
Do I do the viral video thing or no?
No, you give us all your stucky takes.
Oh yeah, that's what people are here for.
Mark Carman's in the building. Mark,
that's what I'm here for. I'm all the stucky takes. Good to see you, Luke. I do have an open beer here.
Yeah, I was gonna say the real reason I'm here is so Carm can spill a beverage on me like he did Adam Hogue yesterday, or am I here to make sure that Carm doesn't go potty during the show? Because that's every Bears show I've seen the last 2 weeks.
I'll be honest,
gets up, potty break halfway through.
The seating makes it a little tough for him to get up and go.
Gonna go right in front.
Perhaps
the battle of the bladders here with the three old men of four old men.
Kevin,
Sports.
Did you know that Stuckmeyer
is show ever?
Wait, say that again, Lawrence.
So this is the oldest, whitest show we've ever done.
Yeah.
It's not great, honestly. I don't think the kids are going to love it.
Including the producer.
Yes, very much so. I'm
we are old. There's definitely too many men and definitely too many people over the age of half a century on this show. But hey, that's the way it is.
We got hoodies on.
I think we're cool.
I feel like a spring chicken right here.
You are. I mean, you really are. Chicken. You just ran a marathon.
Thanks for joining us today, everyone out there in the Chicago Sports Podcast land. Hit that like button. We're going to have a good time today. We got a lot of stuff ahead. A little bit of housekeeping. We've got our final Bears tailgate of the season coming up a week from today, November 9th, ahead of I don't even know what we're calling it yet, the Panthers-Bears Bowl.
Duty Bowl.
Duty Bowl.
Tank Bowl.
And then we've got a Bulls takeover Friday, November 17th. That's a in-season tournament game. It's our first takeover game. Go to ALLCITY to find out more details, but basically $85 will get you a ticket, a pregame party, good vibes,
good time.
Can't guarantee a Bulls victory, but if we could, we would.
We're guaranteeing it. The Bulls are so good. Don't worry about last
They're playing the Orlando Magic, who seem to be a team that actually has a few things together, unlike our beloved Bullies.
Like the Bulls draft picks. I mean, the last couple years.
I should point out that Jailbreak says, I'm a nice guy. Thank you, Jailbreak.
Jim Cook, I should point out that I didn't drink the whole beer, just half of it. And, I'm pacing myself.
You've got the 312. I've got the full pocket pills. And Luke has the
leftover water. Old cup
Starbucks,
of some water.
Yeah. Did you just order water, or was there something else?
No, I had a tea in it earlier. Now I'm having a little water.
I mean, can't you just get a reusable?
It's a little weird.
Listen,
vessel. I think that's weird.
It was here. I had it. I went to the jug. I filled it up with water. Tough time for you guys to be close quarters, by the way. I just went and had an onion bagel.
I will say, if you leave that here,
thanks for bringing
Carr may not have to go to the bathroom.
I could do that. That could
be a portable urinal.
I mean, the prostate's a real thing here, guys. So it's just gonna. I mean, let's call it what it is.
Get your annual physical.
Never mind. Let's not talk about that. I always look forward to it. It's a great moment.
It's always a good. Always good to see medical help. Hey, this week's Taking Care of Business Award, powered by ComEd, goes to. I'm going to do a little bit of suspense here. There haven't been Chicago teams that have won a lot of games lately. We weren't going to give it to Zach LaVine for scoring 51 points on a loss. The Blackhawks haven't won since last Friday.
I propose Brooke Barnheiser from Northwestern, 29 points in exhibition game was denied.
This should be the Cubs' 7-year anniversary of winning the World Series.
Oh, well.
The anniversary, you can't do it.
It's only 7 years ago.
They took care of business 7 years ago.
They did take care of business.
But it's usually like this week, so I don't know.
Yeah, right.
So I was actually going to give it, and Carmen and I came to this consensus. This week's Taking Care of Business
is it me?
award
I hope it's me.
goes to Dane Dunning
wow.
and Marcus Semien
Former White
for
Sox.
freeing themselves from the Chicago White Sox, going down to Texas and being part of that turnaround. 100 losses a couple years ago. World Series winner last night, so good for them. I can't tell you exactly how they did because, honestly, I don't think I maybe watched 2.5 innings of that World Series, sadly. I just wasn't into it. But good for them. Dane Dunning, I mean, he had I guess he had an okay season, 12 wins.
Yeah, I'm sure he did. He was traded for Lance Lynn. I didn't like the trade when it happened. Didn't work out great for the White Sox, for the record. And Dunning, he didn't give up any runs pitching in the World Series. He got in 3 games. So, hey, that's an accomplishment.
I mean, he helped when Scherzer went down, right? Didn't he? He was the one to replace Scherzer in the 4th.
I mean, I didn't watch
Game
literally. I did not watch 1 inning of the World Series. Not an inning.
I watched some of it, more than I probably should have.
Well, that's good because you're a baseball podcast.
Yeah, I mean, Adolis Garcia, there's a guy
Game
that
1
the
was
Cardinals
ridiculous.
cut. Amen to that.
Cash
Has
consideration.
Cody tweeted about that?
Yeah, a few times.
I did see some of it. We were at the Blackhawks takeover at Legends in Mokina last Friday night, and so it was actually a really good bar night, a bar sports night. The Blackhawks were on. We had a full house there. The Bulls were on after that, and the World Series was on. So.
Well, because you didn't see it, I did feel bad for Alex Thomas, Mount Carmel kid.
Alec Thomas, yeah.
Yeah, what did I say, Alex?
You did.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Either way.
I just did the repeat just to
Now I'll say Mount Carmel's.
There you go.
He went to Mount Carmel's, and he had a ball go through his legs that led to like 3 runs.
That was depressing.
It didn't end up mattering because they never scored anyway. So it was
it was like, it was Walker.
It was the
and
dagger.
then Walker and then him.
Yeah, it
there
was a dagger.
No errors in the whole series until Walker booted the ball.
At one point, the Rangers were being no hit through like 6 innings, and then finally they got a couple of hits, and he let one go through his legs. I felt bad for a local guy, but again, they didn't lose the World Series because of that.
No, I did hate the 9th inning when they just kept showing him on the top.
Yeah,
step.
they didn't need to show him because it had nothing to do with really the game. The game was over.
Yeah.
They
So
couldn't get
I
hits.
will say this. This World Series was a matchup of 2 100-loss teams from 2 seasons ago. So here in Chicago, we said, hey, look at this turnaround. Look, what happened. The best scenario for Chicago teams, specifically the Chicago White Sox, but also the Chicago Cubs, happened because these were 2 different 100-loss teams 2 years ago. One was the Texas Rangers, who spent an entire GDP of a mid-level country to buy their way back into relevance. They won the World Series. Arizona Diamondbacks did something less than that. They are a good organization, but they did not spend as much money. They were the happy to be here, anything can happen team. They got in a great run. Credit to our people at PHNX, whatever. But I'm glad the Rangers won.
Yes.
Because if you're a Cubs or White Sox fan, that is a lesson to take away from this. Spend money, be aggressive, and you'll get rewarded.
The Phillies made it to the League Championship Series 2 years in a row by spending lots of money. But yeah, the Rangers spent like $500 million on Semien, Seager, and Gray a year ago, and they still stunk. So what did they do this year? They didn't say, oh, well, that didn't work. We spent a lot of money. Oh, poor woe is us, massive debt and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Instead, they went out and signed Jacob deGrom, who barely played for them, but huge money, okay? Then they also went and got Nathan Eovaldi, 2 for $34. He won 5.
He was awesome.
Tied a postseason record with 5 postseason wins. Cubs should have signed him instead of Tyone. That's another story.
Oof.
And then they went out and traded for Scherzer, so more money coming in. They spent. So, moral of the story is, White Sox, you can dig yourself out of it. Jerry, open up the pocketbook and go spend for guys. Cubs, you can do it. Go spend money and then draft wisely like the Diamondbacks did.
I love getting value when you spend, like the Eovaldi, what you just did. But sometimes, you got to take bigger swings and hope for it. But at bare minimum, like when I'm just looking at the way teams spend and the way the Cubs didn't spend. Like, wouldn't spend $9 million on Kyle Schwarber and then spend $7 million on Jock Peterson. Like, that's just like so unbelievably dumb and offensive at the time that it still bothers me to this day. I know that's been talked about a zillion times in your podcast, but it's like, be a good GM, man. Spend reasonable, expensive dollars when you can, and you know, and I think if you do that, well, you're gonna elevate yourself rapidly.
The Rangers did both. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
They spent big on DeGrom, ridiculous money, but then they also spent wisely on kind of a flyer on Uvalde, who at the time, The Athletic is calling a depth piece. Even though, you know, he was pretty good for the Red Sox, but injuries were a deal. So they got him for 2 for $34. Okay, I hope for the Cubs' sake, Tyone turns into that guy one of the next couple of years, but we don't know.
I wouldn't hold your breath.
Nah, probably not.
But that even that signing though, even though it didn't look great in the first half of the year, and then for a minute there it did, I don't hate that.
No, I don't either.
Like you're not. That's not going to cripple you. It shouldn't. Like, you're the Chicago Cubs.
That would be like the most money that the White Sox ever gave a pitcher, though, right?
Yeah, well, it'd be even if it was a 1-year deal, to be their biggest one in history.
Yeah.
You know?
So at least we are into the offseason. Things are now getting interesting for the White Sox and Cubs. Make sure you follow CHGO Cubs, CHGO White Sox, because it is going to be a hot stove. I think definitely on the north side and hopefully somewhat on the south side, but we'll see. You never know what can happen.
Paul Janish, new farm director for the White Sox.
Oh,
do you remember that name, Luke? Can you?
No. I thought you were talking about Jarish Bakery. I started thinking about coffee cakes, but Janish, I don't know. Jarish, I know.
He was a middle infielder for the Reds.
Oh, yes. Do know the name, yeah.
So now he's the
Getz
farm
and
director.
Janish, that's the...
Yes.
Hey, why not?
What a double play combo for the White Sox.
Right? What a combo.
All right, let's get into our topic. I wanted to talk about Bobby Knight today. Bobby Knight passes away on Wednesday at the age of 83. I mean, that is as big as a sports death as really you can get, because he loomed so large over American sports for the last half century or so. So a lot of people are talking about that, but this is the Chicago Sports Podcast. He has some ties.
Or, as most of our chat thinks, the Bears
Chicago
show.
Bears.
Yes.
Bears show,
I'm
yeah.
sorry,
Another Bears show.
Sorry, the graphics are all different and everything says it's different, but whatever, that's fine.
Brick by brick, you meatballs.
Bears.
But I thought that there was a way into this, right? And I think Luke, you and I were talking about it earlier today. Chicago Bears have not had a lot of success over the last 40 years. I will say this. If you do look at the lineage of Bears coaches since then, they've all been guys that maybe if you were dating their daughters, you wouldn't necessarily show up to their house and be afraid. You could see yourself walking in and sharing a glass of bourbon with Dave Wanstead.
Yeah,
Great guy.
Dick Duran might not have a lot of words.
Sharing French fries with him.
Lonnie.
Perhaps. Yeah.
Dick Duran might not have a lot of words for you, but, he's probably going to be a supportive father-in-law. Lovie Smith, great guy, probably slap you on the back on your way out to the arcade.
Yep.
I think.
Yep.
Might get in your ass a little bit, but still overall good guy.
Might give you the stare down.
Mark Trestman, I don't know. A little weird.
Yeah.
Might not,
Check if he's registered somewhere.
John Fox, I don't know. Matt Nagy and Matt Eberflus.
He just looks a little creepy.
Yeah, I agree.
Matt Nagy and Matt Eberflus.
Yeah.
They're in the nice guy category.
You got a lot of nice guys.
Nagy was a great guy. Boom.
And that's why
Club dub.
That's why you wanted him to win. I mean, I think people even at the end of the Nagy era, even though it was, it was clear that it was time for him to go, it was clear it was not working, people still said, well, I could see in 10 or 15 years Nagy coming back and being like the next Dave Wanstead in a media role.
No way, but okay. Dave's so good at media. Nagy can never be that entertaining, but keep going.
Sure. So anyway, obviously, go back to Mike Ditka, who was not a nice guy, who was more Bobby Knight than...
Yeah. Well, you got the picture of him flipping the bird at Soldier Field.
Right.
Fans, right?
And, I think that all those coaches that I named off, I think I've talked about this on the shows before. The easiest betting money I ever made was looking at the list of Bears coaching candidates on the DraftKings app and saying, which one of these guys do I think can go in and just wow George McCaskey and Virginia McCaskey and do I'm a defensive guy and I'm a nice guy. I'm a man of upstanding character. And I looked at it, I said, this is Matt Eberflus, and he's paying off at, plus 480. Let's go.
Great job.
Yeah.
Nice work.
$50 on that. It paid off well.
Wow. Okay.
Who's the nicest guy out there? That's who they're going to hire.
So, we're in a different mode of sports where the athletes have a different standing now in the year 2023 than they did in 1985 or in 1976 when Bobby Knight went undefeated with the Indiana Hoosiers, the last undefeated team in college basketball. But there's still jerks out there. There's still guys who are the guys in the building.
Belichick,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Tomlin,
Tomlin, sure.
Well, Michael H. throwing Harbaugh in there.
Harbaugh is definitely one of those.
Yeah.
Right?
It's an interesting name. I'd love to
not going to put up with your crap.
get into that in a second, but keep going, Kev.
To me, is like, do the Bears need to change the archetype of the coach that they've been hiring over and over again for the last 4 decades?
Yes, but it doesn't have to be the way that we're talking. In my opinion, you don't have to be a jerk to be a winning coach. You need to be smart, and you have to have good players. That combo hasn't happened for Chicago Bears football in a long time. They haven't either had the good... I think Lovey was really smart defensively as a coach, but he didn't have the offense or the quarterback to match with it. It's a marriage of the two things. Now, college sports are totally different, right? Mm-hmm. Because they're recruiting guys themselves. Yeah. So you got to have a little... I think those coaches have to have a little something to draw the high school kid in a little bit. I think it's harder to be...
And the kid's parents.
And the kid's parents. Sometimes it's cash under the table. That's another story.
Well, actually, so you're not under the table anymore.
Yeah, not under the table anymore. You're asking, do the Bears need to hire remember when Lou Piniella was hired? And somebody asked him, do you need more fire, Lou? Do you need more fire out of you? What am I, a dragon? And I don't need to be a dragon. Then he went through a base the next game. I don't think you have to have that. I really do think you can be a nice guy. That said, it does seem like doesn't it seem like the cranky SOBs win more? Am I wrong?
Well, I think you could be a nice guy, but I think you also have to be a boss, right? There needs to be no question about who's in charge.
So I think it's an interesting flag that the Bears or any organization could plant. When I am looking for a head coaching candidate, whenever we have that opening, I am planting my flag out there. I'm looking for somebody who's respected much more so than they're liked. Mm-hmm. Like, I think with Bobby Knight, like we're jumping off in this conversation, a lot of people didn't like Bobby Knight. I didn't like Bobby Knight. I wouldn't want to play for Bobby Knight.
I hated him.
Right. There's a lot. Exactly. I mean, a lot of people hated him, but he was respected because knew the game. His teams won. I just think he had a standard of play that I think I'm not saying everyone respected him, but he was way more respected than he was liked.
Because he won.
Right.
He wasn't respected because he was yelling at people or choking a player or throwing a chair. He was respected because he won. Whether that was motivation by fear with the players or if it was that he was a good recruiter and a really good coach outside of the angry attitude, that's probably more like it. Right? Like Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr still wins championships. Steve Kerr's like one of the 5 people in sports I'd invite into my house and say, here's my mom.
Well, that's a unicorn, though. He's liked and respected.
Right.
Yeah.
But he's a nice guy. There's no...
Sure. But and Kerr does have that red-ass side to him, too.
Still hold you accountable.
Yeah.
That's different.
Yeah. But...
I mean, the one thing they said about Knight, though, was like he didn't mind having his players hate him because it knew it would unite them and get them to work together.
Him against us.
And I don't know if you guys had that. Like I had a teacher in high school who was a complete red ass and total jerk to me. It was a science teacher. I was terrible at science, and I wanted to work better to prove that I could get an A just to prove this guy wrong, and I did. I don't know if you guys have ever been in that same situation.
I mean, for me, what the biggest recollection of that was when substitute teachers came in, I tended to enjoy myself.
Yeah, me too.
Right, there we go. But when Mrs. Frank, R.I.P., came in there, I mean, sitting up straight as an arrow, I'm not. You got me instantly. I'm paying attention. I am not gonna. There will be no jokes, and I'm gonna just do everything I can to answer correctly when you call on me. So did you get better grades? Did you get better grades for the teacher that yelled at you? Actually, I did.
Oh, interesting. So you might have been a Bobby Knight player someday. Minus the bad jump shot. I would
have been terrified of that guy. But sure.
So Mike Ditka, was he? I don't think he was necessarily feared and respected. He had a different leadership style. It was more of a tough guy approach. It was a good show for the media, but we also have heard that after '85, people got tired. Ditka took so-and-so sponsorships.
Yeah.
Ditka is more, into the restaurant business and everything else.
Right. I think young Ditka respected. Old Ditka not as much.
Not as much, including today.
Right.
And
obviously he's acted and worked in New Orleans.
Yeah, but you also had Walter Payton on the team at the time, right? So even if Ditka wasn't the guy laying down the law, you had guys in the locker room like Richard Dent, Mike Singletary, Walter Payton, that if you weren't going to listen to Ditka, which obviously would be a mistake, those guys were going to hold you accountable anyways, because they had great players who were leaders and everybody respected them.
Well, that's the thing with these Bears. Ryan Poles came in here.
Nobody's
got rid of Khalil Mack, got rid of Robert Quinn. Who is the leader on that team? You've got
Roquan.
Roquan's gone.
Nobody to look up to in the locker room, and nobody to look up to.
Chase Claypool.
Right. Well, I mean, it's tough, and it seems like there's no accountability either. Like they're announcing too many starting receivers because Claypool doesn't want to be called a backup on the first home game. Like, come on, don't get on your knees and beg one of these players, especially when he's gone through training camp and everybody's telling you this guy's not doing the work. Everybody you're talking to that's there is like, this guy's not working hard. And then to send that message before the season. So do I think you want to be that much of a player's coach? I don't think that's being a player's coach. There's a happy medium between the two. Bobby Knight, I don't think the Bobby Knight, Mike Ditka thing works enough for everyday players anymore. I'll be honest with you. I don't think the screaming and yelling necessarily works for 90% of the players. It doesn't mean it won't work for some guys. Some people love that discipline, right? Mm-hmm. Some people like being told this is the way it is and this is the way you're going to do it. And so Pop is like one of the last, but Pop is also arm around the shoulder, take Tony Parker out for wine, and then just blast him the next day after a game. Now, my Bobby Knight experience is that Bobby Knight was a hero of mine as a kid growing up. I was a huge IU basketball fan because of family that lived in Indiana, including my grandparents. So I thought Bobby Knight couldn't do any wrong. Mm-hmm. I thought he was the greatest coach that ever lived. I had the VHS tape that said A Night of Basketball that he talked and showed you how to run plays on a VHS tape, and I would watch it over and over and over, even though I didn't know.
Striped pajamas.
Yeah, I didn't know what he was talking about, but I thought it was great. Bobby Knight was the king. Then he got kicked out of Indiana, and I'm working in San Antonio, and he goes to coach Texas Tech. Okay, and the high school in San Antonio calls me up. I was the weekend sports guy, and they're like, "Hey, Luke, guess what? Got a scoop for you. Bobby Knight's going to be here at 10 o'clock in the morning today. Can you get over here with a camera crew? He's going to be at our morning practice because the kids don't actually go to gym class. They just have basketball practice twice a day or football practice twice a day in Texas." I'm like, sure, grab a camera, get out there. I'm like, this is going to be my lead story. Bobby Knight's recruiting a kid in San Antonio. We show up at practice. Knight's up in the bleachers all by himself, sitting at the top of the bleachers. They're folded up except for that tiny 2 seats up there. He's sitting up there. We shoot it all the way across the basketball court as to not get in his face. We could have gone right up next to him and sat with the camera, like heard him breathing, all the way across the gymnasium. Shoot it. Practice is going on. All of a sudden, I see Knight get down, and he goes through the 2 doors on the other side of the gym, and I'm like, hey, he might be leaving. We can't lose this opportunity because he was gone for like 60 seconds. So we go across the gym, grab my cameraman. Now the NBC shows up with us, and we go to the other side, and I'm walking through what are showers and locker rooms, and I'm like, where the hell did Bobby Knight go? And then I hear the washing of the hands and the flushing of the urinal. I'm like, okay, he went to the bathroom. But all of a sudden, Bobby Knight goes out another side door, and I could tell he knows I'm in there, and he's running from us.
Luke is like the Raptors and Jurassic Park.
At this point,
you interrupted a night shit.
I want to meet Bobby Knight, and I want to get the interview. I got up in the morning. I want the scoop. I want Bobby Knight. So finally, I track him down, and no, he kind of barks at me, and like, no interview. This is like in the locker room thing. So I step out onto the floor. Fine, okay, whatever, Step out on the floor of the gymnasium. Bobby Knight opens up that door, and he lays into me and the other reporter, anchor that was next to me, who really had nothing to do with any of it because he didn't really chase him down. And he starts laying into me. And he starts preaching and yelling at me about, did you get my permission to shoot video of these kids? Did you get permission to shoot my likeness up in the stands? Did you get... And I don't know what clicked in me, but I had a little Bobby Knight fire back at him. And something, I don't know if I was angry because I was up early. I don't know if I was angry because I hadn't had enough sweet tea that day. I laid into him and I just said, Coach, this is a public school in San Antonio. We were invited by the principal and the athletic director. We have any right, just like a basketball game here, to shoot anybody in the stands that we want to because you're on public property. You think Bobby Knight like that? No, Bobby Knight didn't like that. So now he's really, the ears are turning bright red and the steam's coming out. He's like, what if I was here? What if I was here illegally recruiting, doing something illegal that was going to hurt the Texas Tech program? Then would you report that I was here illegally?
Yes.
So the other reporter starts like panicking and like shaking. Is like, oh, well, of course not. And I'm like, yeah, Coach, if you were here illegal, that'd just make it a bigger story. But that's not what I'm here to do. I grew up an IU basketball fan. I idolized you growing up. If you don't want to do the interview, don't do the interview. It's not going to change our sportscast. We're here to give the school, Texas Tech, and some publicity, and you happen to be in San Antonio. That's cool. If you don't want to talk, you don't want to talk. Marches off in a thing. We turn around. Before we can get out of the gym, all of a sudden I get one of these. The big arm around me, the hugging. I was just teaching you a lesson, about journalism. We got to teach young journalists. And I'm like, I'm like 40-something. And I'm almost 40 years old at this point. And I'm like, I was probably 35. And I'm like, yeah, but Coach, again, if you don't want to do the interview, you don't have to do the interview. But I honestly don't need a lesson in how to do my job. And he's like, I know, I just having some fun, whatever. Did the interview. When we ran the soundbite on the news, it looked like Bobby Knight was the nicest guy on the planet. And it's funny because there are those two sides. I saw Brad Edwards at Channel 2, whose dad was a Big Ten referee, and he's the guy that's in every Bobby Knight photo for the AP that was in every over-the-shoulder on TV. Bobby Knight screaming at this Big Ten official. Brad points out that when his dad died or was dying of cancer, Bobby Knight sent him a letter. Okay, so not everybody's that. I just don't think that works anymore, okay? Long story short, I don't think that guy works because I think everybody in America and around the world were a little too soft-skinned.
Do you think he was testing you, though, and once he saw that you stood up, that changed him?
Nah, I think he saw...
Or do you think he was just looking for a fight?
I think he was looking for a fight because he's a bully, and he saw this blonde-haired, Ken doll walking in with a camera, and he thought, I'm going to let this guy have it. And normally, I probably would have been like, but you deal with Greg Popovich on a regular basis. It was like, I don't care if Bobby Knight does this. And like, what a high school story? We got to go talk to Tim Duncan and David Robinson. It doesn't matter. So right. I don't know if he caught me at the right time, maybe. But I think people, when they get that big in that role, and I think Ditka's probably been that way too, they constantly want to be showing you how powerful they are and how smart they are.
Right. Agreed.
And I don't think it works with professional athletes anymore.
He enjoyed his ability to bully. He also enjoyed entertaining at the same time, which is the back end of your story. Like he likes to be an entertainer. Tell all his jokes. I told this on CHGO Bears. It's a different story completely, but I'm just starting out. So I'm completely intimidated by this guy, and I'm just going to Northwestern Indiana in the press, and here comes Knight for the post-game presser. And I think earlier that week he had gone nuts on the media at some practice, and so people were afraid of him. He comes in. I've never seen this in my life, now to this day since. But he comes in, does his opening 2 minutes on the game, pauses, waiting for a question. No one asks a question. Terrified of the guy.
Yeah.
Does his next 2 minutes, talks a little bit more, pauses. No one asks a question. And I'm sitting there looking around at like all the veteran reporters, and I was like, somebody gonna say something here? Do I need to ask him a question? We can't just like let him not. But I'm afraid of him too. Does one more minute after that pause, looks back out, no one says anything, and he leaves. That did not the Chicago. I mean, it wasn't just like the Indiana school newspaper that was there. The Chicago media were that afraid of the dude in a game that they beat Northwestern by 40. That they did not even ask him a question.
But do you think the super nice guy?
To your point, I don't think the night level of coach does not work today. But if you look around the NFL, like Mike Tomlin works, right?
People are mad at Flus for not being honest and not burying guys in a press conference, which Ditka would have done, right? Like, who did that? I covered Parcells in Dallas. Parcells did that. Mm-hmm. But he also could be very nice. But he was not afraid to lay into players that weren't playing well or living up to their end of the bargain.
I think, in today's players, it's like they want a coach who's going to make them better, who's going to put them in a position to make more money, possibly, win a ring. And that just hasn't been happening with the Chicago Bears.
I'd take Knight as the Bears head coach if we could rewind back time, make him 40 years old, and he could be in charge of the defensive coordinator and the offensive coordinator, just for the entertainment factor. I like an entertaining coach just for that side. And we're gonna, that's what Greeny said on ESPN Radio this morning. I'm in the interesting business, and there were few people more interesting than Bobby Knight, which I agree with.
I heard somebody say this week, I think it was. What's his name? Football writer with Sports Illustrated forever.
Paul Zimmerman?
No.
Frank DeFord.
No, the big name.
Peter King?
Peter King. Peter King was talking about the possibility of Belichick not being back and Kraft finally getting mad with the losing and saying, you're gone. Do you think if Belichick went somewhere else, it would work? For instance, if he were available to the Bears, if Belichick were available to the Bears, would McCaskey...
I think you'd have to take a shot.
I think, because you're the Bears, you'd have to roll the dice. Now, if you're another franchise, do you roll the dice on that, give him all the control and late in his career?
Tom Brady went to Tampa Bay, won a title. Bill Belichick hasn't done a damn thing. Josh McDaniels just got ousted from his second straight NFL team. Will never get hired again.
Let's not put McDaniels in the same sentence as Bill Belichick.
Well, they coached together.
Charlie Weiss.
Yeah.
Matt Patricia. Who else? I mean,
his
tree may suck, but that doesn't affect.
He's not the Popovich tree of success. I don't know. If you were the Bears, I think you'd have to try it. And that's even having me just said. Partially because the Bears do need a kick in the tail.
Who's going to come into Hallis Hall and is not bowing down to the McCaskies and literally say, I don't care who you people are. None of you have done anything for 38 or 39 years. And I realize that the McCaskies are not going to hire that person. They have yet to hire that person. Correct. But that is what they need. They need someone to come in there and say, I don't care about 1920. I don't care about George Hallis. No. I don't care about anything other than the fact that you guys have not won a damn thing since 1985.
Who is that guy?
Great question.
That probably is today. If you had to ask, it's probably Jim Harbaugh.
Jim Harbaugh.
Cheating or not.
The cheating,
I'd put up with the cheater. I don't care.
Really?
You're not cheating. You're not trying.
Are you serious? Like
you wouldn't hire Jim Harbaugh because he cheated in college?
If I'm living up to my morals, no, I wouldn't. And I
haven't followed that whole story at all.
They had a meeting with all the Big Ten coaches that ESPN wrote up yesterday. They are begging the conference to do significant damage to them that they haven't done.
Why is
I think it's stupid.
Why is it illegal that you can't
steal signs?
Because it is. Because you can't. Okay. It just that's what the rules are. And the coaches are like, this is the level of edge that Michigan has had. And if you look at their record before they were doing this to what they're doing now, is enormous. And they knew if it was a run or if it was a pass. Think about how much advantage you have in calling your defense. So
hide your signs better.
Hey, yep.
CHGO is supported by Goose Island Beer Company, Chicago's beer since 1988. We all know, we all love their products. I'm drinking a Pocket Pills. You're drinking a 312. There's also Oktoberfest. I still have a few of those in my fridge at home. Drank a few around the fire on Halloween night. There's all the Beer Hug family. And coming up later this month, Bourbon County Brand Stout. All their different varietals there. I'm looking forward to the hookup that we get here at CHGO. Won't have to wait in line or go beer hunting at all whatsoever. So make sure you check that out. You can also grab ultra fresh brewery exclusive beers at Goose Island's Original Brew House on Clybourne Avenue in Lincoln Park, or from their tap room on Fulton Street in Westtown, which is right near our studios here in the West Loop. Goose Island Beer Company, Chicago's beer.
Who are the pretenders? Who are the contenders? We're more than halfway through the NFL season, but DraftKings Sportsbook is still pumping out the unbeatable offers every single game. New customers, you bet $5 on anything, you get $200 instantly in bonus bets. DraftKings not stopping there. All customers can take advantage of a sweetener. That's every game during the month of November. Get in on the football action with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Download the app now. Use the code CHGO. New customers, $5 on anything, $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with the code CHGO. The crown is yours. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino Resort, Kansas. Licensing partner Golden Nugget, Lake Charles, Louisiana. 21 or over. Age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/football terms for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources.
Let's go.
Pretty nice. By the way, I should say I run a little loose with the morals probably when it comes to football.
That's what they always say about Luke Stuckmeyer.
Yeah,
runs loose with the morals.
It's not that I don't care that he cheated. I just don't. If I'm an NFL team, I don't care that he cheated in college. Look at Pete Carroll. He cheated in college. He's doing just fine in the NFL. Okay? So I don't care if they cheated at the other level when they come to the other job. Honestly, I don't, but I don't need them to be cheating with the Bears and then the Bears get penalized. That's another story.
Cheating in college, like the way Harbaugh's cheating, stealing signs, or cheating by paying players? Are they equal to you?
Well, one was just as illegal before, so what's the difference?
The difference is that you're just paying dudes that should be paid.
The stealing signs thing, I don't even understand. Like, come up with better signs.
Yeah,
I don't even understand the rule that he was cheating. So, like, how can I be that angry about it? I don't even disagree with what he's doing.
But hold on, there is a rules that it was sent out. You cannot send people with cameras to other stadiums to video the sidelines and steal the signs. That is a known.
Yeah, there were rules that you couldn't pay players. The other guy was paying players.
Right, but
Reggie Bush was getting new cars.
This though is directly impacting the game and giving yourself an edge on the field as far as strategy in the moment. I mean, this is
so is having Reggie Bush on your team.
I mean, college football is the most lopsided sport there is. Like, there's 4 or 5 teams that have a chance any single year.
Mike Florio said he'd be surprised if an NFL team touched him because there's the rumor that NFL teams are gonna, if there's a suspension that they can't. First of all, they can't do it; it's illegal. But like, I don't know. I wouldn't be afraid. If I were the Bears, I would not be afraid to hire Jim Harbaugh.
So one of the interesting things in Dan Wetzel's great obituary of Bobby Knight was he said, the fun thing isn't winning with cheating players. The fun part is beating the teams that are using, players to cheat, which I thought was,
there you go.
That's like the other side of the Bobby Knight thing, right?
I'm not a Belichick guy either, and I'm enjoying the fact, Brady or Belichick, it's the quarterback, you idiots. The guy's the king of the world. Come on.
Well, I think with Brady, it was the quarterback, and then it was also supreme cap management.
Sure.
Keep that thing going for 20,
sure. He needs
20 years and not falling in love. And
the deflated footballs.
And the camera and the practice.
Spygate.
Also cheating.
Yeah, right. Well, and I hate that shit. I just...
No, I'd rather be that than winless for 40 years.
Who's your college basketball Mount Rushmore?
Ooh.
College
Homer Drew at Valpo. Bryce Drew at Valpo.
There you go. All the
Scott Drew at Valpo. And probably Bobby
You ran
Knight.
out of Drews.
Oh, sorry. And John Wooden. Realistically, how about for you, Carm? The 4 best coaches of all time, or the Mount Rushmore.
Dean Smith.
Dean Smith's number 1 for sure for me.
Number 1
over
not John Wooden.
Come on.
Well, yeah, no, sure, Wooden, sure, why not? Yeah, John Wooden.
I just like the stories that I've been hearing about Dean lately is he went to Africa to learn Mehmet Okur's family because the guy was like I think I have the right player because the player wouldn't look him in the eye. And so he sent one of his assistants to like learn his family and his customs to come back. Like that's
dedication.
That's some big time stuff.
That's a heck of a
but
coach.
okay, in no order. Let's do it that way.
Dean
Smith, Wooden, Knight,
John Thompson. Give me John Thompson.
Sure, I will.
K.
I will give you John.
over Coach K.
Okay,
Yeah, it's a tough. It's a tough one.
I hate Coach K too.
Yeah.
Respect, but yeah, can't stand him.
What John Thompson did, as far as at that time period with Georgetown and leaning into being that progressive, I just have enormous respect for the guy. I mean, Coach K's got an incredible cheat factory going on there at Duke like no other, so congratulations to him.
Yeah. Snivelly rat
You've
face.
got to give him credit for this. He's basically at Northwestern out east, and he's like one of the greatest coaches of all time.
Dominant. 100%.
Education level of Northwestern, small school, small gymnasium, and one of the
so
winning.
annoying.
You know, like
so annoying. I can't stand Coach K.
I mean, you just can't use the Northwestern argument over and over because you can look at guys like Coach K and say, no, they can. They can do it. Gary Ross in the live chat says Wooden, Smith, Knight, and then Roy Williams.
Roy
boy.
I told Kevin I interviewed him once, and I was stunned at how nice he was after a disappointing loss. Super nice guy.
To me, I think it's a fairly solid 4: Wooden, Dean, Coach K, and Bobby Knight. And I think if you were going to bump anyone off, it might be Bobby Knight because the second half of his career, once you got past, I mean, he had a great first half.
That's
second
right.
half was not great.
You're right. Plus, just the incidents.
All the baggage that he brought with.
You want my how about my personal Mount Rushmore of college basketball coaches?
Let's hear them.
Because that would have Homer Drew of Valpo, my school, the shot, Sweet 16, all of that. And honestly, the single nicest person probably on the planet. Like, so nice that you can't believe it. Homer Drew. Bobby Knight, despite the interaction with him, still growing up, wow, what a guy, what a college basketball coach. Don't love the way he did it, but let's see. I'll tell you.
I can't wait to give you my.
Oh, okay, I'm gonna put him on. I'm gonna put him on there. Ray Meyer, Ray Meyer, DePaul. Ray Meyer. If you're talking college basketball and you live in the Chicago area, Ray Meyer better be on your list. He put DePaul on the map when they were bigger than the Bulls before MJ got here. DePaul basketball was bigger to me than anything else, any Bulls game that could possibly be going on until MJ got here. So Homer Drew, Bobby Knight, Ray Meyer, and then John Wooden because he's the greatest coach in basketball history, maybe in coaching history.
If you're going personal favorite college basketball coaches, this is going to be.
This is going to be a bunch of Northwestern guys.
Yes, well, Ricky Birdsong is definitely on the list. I
Bill
love
Carmody.
Bill Carmody would be on my list too. I love both those cat coaches, and then, Ray of course put him on the map.
Wait a minute.
Yes,
you're going to go Northwestern coaches, and you're not going to have Kevin O'Neill on there.
It's a good one too. I hate it.
Oh, what about
you hated Kevin O'Neill?
I hated Kevin.
Well, I can't think of him now.
He was entertaining,
Loyola.
though.
He was extremely
Just left.
entertaining.
Let's go to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Oh my
broken
God.
as well.
This is embarrassing.
Bill Self?
No, the Loyola coach that went to Oklahoma.
Oh, Jim Whitesell.
No, not Jim Whitesell.
Jim Whitesell. How did I
Just
just
one.
Homer? No.
Wow, this is 4 old white guys right here. And when I say old, I mean like what?
I'm completely
Porter Moser.
Porter
yeah.
Moser. Oh,
That's not an easy name to.
oh yeah, but that's embarrassing. That's like Jim Whitesell throwing at us.
So Ryan Marks is definitely on this list. Now, do you know who Ryan Marks?
I don't even know who Ryan Marks is.
Ryan Marks.
How did we get here, by the way?
I don't know.
Luke did this. Ryan Marks is the
Those Chicago Bears fans are really angry right now.
Ryan Marks was an assistant coach at Northern Illinois the last time the Huskies went to the tournament. Okay. Ryan Marks led with Division III Southern Vermont College to their first ever D3 NCAA
Digger
tournament.
Phelps with the markers.
Digger was great. Digger.
I got to work with Digger. He was awesome.
What about what's his name at Marquette? Ray Meyer and was it great? Al McGuire.
Al McGuire. Yeah.
See, boy, my mind is mush today.
Mine would be as a Wisconsin grad, Bo Ryan.
Ugh.
Okay.
How do you not like Bo Ryan? He actually looked like Bucky Badger.
I know, and he was just annoying and mean.
I would say Ray Meyer just for the Chicago historical impact.
No Lou Henson?
No, not a Lou Henson
Love
guy.
the Lou do.
What about just the Mount Rushmore of the Chicagoland area?
I got a phone call from John Wooden once. That was really cool. I was writing a story about this old as dirt high school basketball coach in KU, and he claimed to be friends with John Wooden, gave me his phone number, and I called up John Wooden, left a message on his answering machine. Like 2 hours later, picked it up, and John Wooden was on. That was cool. I mean, that was,
Wow. Wow.
And then, I don't like Bobby Knight, but I think what he kind of represents,
is a winner.
Represents in my childhood. I mean, turning on CBS on Saturday afternoons on a cold January, February.
The red sweater.
I mean, you couldn't take your eyes off that guy.
Before Tiger was wearing the red shirt, Bobby Knight was wearing the ill-fitting red sweater. Rest in peace.
All right, it was interesting. There's a lot of good writing on Bobby Knight out there right now. I mentioned Dan Wetzel's piece. My old Yahoo colleague Pat Forty had a good one. Greg Doyle from the Indianapolis Star, and then of course, I kind of want to go back and read John Feinstein's Season on the Brink and DeFord's Rabbit Hunter profile on him. So it's gonna be a busy weekend. Hey, by the way, you want to make sure you check out Game Time. For any events that you're coming up to, whether it be a Bulls Blackhawks game or my Morning Jacket's in town next weekend at Chicago Theater. I'll be out there.
Are you taking me again?
You want to go? I got an extra ticket.
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
Anyway, you shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets to your next big event if Kevin tells you he won't give you a concert ticket. Because Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. They offer killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee. It takes all of the guesswork out of buying tickets, and it's the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. The thing I find the best about it is you can go on there and actually see the view of the seat that you're buying, so you know exactly what you're buying. And I think you've got the in-season tourney, Nets at Bulls. I don't know if that's going to be a higher price because it's in season. I probably would guess not.
No, it's probably the same. No. I don't think anyone understands the difference, anyways.
I don't. They're going to have they're going to have that all red court. Have you seen that?
It looks crazy. Yeah,
it looks crazy. It says all red court.
The Bulls?
Yeah, for the in-season tournament games. What's the get-in price for the in-season tourney?
$32.
There you go.
Up in 313.
It's a nice Friday night for you tomorrow.
Yeah. Those games are also count for the regular season, right?
They do.
Yeah. So it's not that big. Yeah, it's whatever. It is what it is.
Anyway, download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHGO for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right. Last week was the 18th anniversary of the 2005 White Sox World Series. We talked a little bit about that. I don't know. We didn't go that in depth because one, it was 18 years ago. We can't remember that far back. And then also Casey and Carman are not White Sox fans, so they weren't in on it. But today we have two guys who were actually in Cleveland for the 2016 Game 7. Cubs finally break their World Series drought, and today's the 7th anniversary. So let's talk a little bit about that. Luke, what do you remember?
Well, you just can't. You'll never recreate that moment. I said on the Cubs podcast, you'll never in Chicago sports just stop trying. We're never going to, no matter how good the Bulls could possibly get someday, could be a long time from now, It'll never be the Jordan era. You're never going to have the Jordan era in Chicago sports. You're never going to have the 85 Bears again, and you will never have the 2016 Chicago Cubs recreated again because you're not going to live to see 108 years of losing. You're not going to have them face Cleveland. You're not going to have them down 3-1. You're not going to have all these young homegrown guys doing it. You're not going to get a home run that ties it late in the game. You're not going to get the rain delay. None of it. So it's never going to happen again. I said but beyond that, like beyond the actual winning of it, it was weird to be there because I've told the story a billion times that the whole reason I got into broadcasting was that my goal was not to be the next Mark Giangreco. My goal was to somehow be there in any way, shape, or form, producer, cameraman, radio guy, somehow be there catcher when the Cubs played in the World Series or won the World Series. So, I mean, think about that. How stupid was I? You know, what an idiotic goal coming out. My parents should have been like, listen, we're paying.
You could have got in that night for like $1,100.
Yeah, like
you could have become like a lawyer.
How about we just buy you a ticket and you go into like business school? How about we try that?
So I'm gonna play devil's advocate to what you just said. There's never going to be anything like that.
Never.
Let's say, God forbid, the Chicago Bears go another 25 to 30 years along this shit, and all of us are in our 70s and 80s, and we've got kids who have never known the Bears to be good. We've got 50 and 60-year-olds who have never known the Bears to be good, and they get to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl again. You don't think would be bigger? I mean, because that's the entire city.
But it's 108 years. Are they ever going to be the lovable losers?
No, I mean, I agree what you're saying, but
it's hard because the internet stuff changes everything, right? The anger from when you had 108 years of losing, for instance, 84 or 2003, you didn't have Twitter or X or whatever, or TikTok or any of that stuff. So you didn't have CHGO where you could join the live chat and throw the fire at people and pay $50 to say whatever you want. That's different now. Mm-hmm. So the anger, instead of the lovable losers, I don't know that the lovable losers exist in any sport anymore because we're an angry society. So it's the angry losers.
The lovable losers is not going to happen, but I think just from in terms of a sheer size of the story.
I know because
I will say I do think that was baseball's last like gasp. I mean, you look at the ratings in 2016 and you see where they're now in 2023.
Even if Cleveland wins it, Cleveland's not Chicago. So it was a major market team that just had never a century plus of losing. So that's why if the Bears win it, it's a big deal, but it's not.
The city will be on fire.
The city will be on fire because the Bears are bigger than the Cubs, but
the 2016 Cubs, when they beat the Dodgers, I walked around in the stands and interviewed people after, they've won the World Series. They've advanced to the World Series. People were so emotional, and I'm asking so is this the best day of your life? Yes, it is. Well, have you had kids? Yes, I have. And that was all over. I'm like, okay. I mean, it meant so much.
Cemeteries.
Yes.
Watching games in cemeteries. And this is when you were still a Cubs fan, Carm.
That's true.
And I agree with all this, and I'm saying that will repeat when the Bears win the Super Bowl again.
No way.
The weeping?
Absolutely.
I don't know.
I mean, I see our chat every day. It's probably true.
It's bigger than baseball. The NFL is bigger than baseball.
I mean, Gary Ross will be weeping. There's no doubt about it. Greg Braggs will be weeping.
I feel like the only thing I need to see again in my lifetime is a Bears Super Bowl because that happened when I was 6 years old, and it hooked me on the whole NFL, and it's never been repeated.
I guess, but most people that are adults, Ryan's out there on the Cubs podcast with me, and he's never seen the Bears win a Super Bowl, but he's seen them in a Super Bowl. We were talking 1945 since the Cubs had even been there. So it's like, I realize the NFL is bigger. I just don't think you can ever match. And the national following of the Cubs because of WGN back in the day and all the cities that didn't have Major League Baseball. I don't think it'll ever be.
Carm, where were you during Game 7?
So I was covering for WGN Radio, and I was with Kevin Powell, who's a White Sox fan. I remember,
so two of you.
Yeah, and so they're up 5, easy. So they're up 5-1, and he's like, dude, you got it, it's over. I'm like, dude, you need to stop talking.
He knew exactly what he was doing.
Yeah, I'm like, this is not how this goes. And, of course, it went the way it went, and I wanted to kill him. But, all the media went down in the 8th inning to get in line. Did you do that?
I was wrapped in a poncho, and we're sitting there watching it on not even a flat screen, a tube TV in the hallway.
Right. And I was like, I'm not going down to watch the Cubs win the World Series and wait in line.
Didn't have a choice if you were going like,
exactly.
We were rights holders, so I was going in the locker room. I had to have the microphone and stuff ready to run in there.
Exactly. You had a real job. I was just like there to get some sound.
Enjoy it. Yeah,
exactly.
Enjoy
it. So I sat up there, and Rajay Davis hits a 3-run homer, and I died. And so did other people. And then so I was in the far corner, right field, next to the foul pole, the second deck level, and collapsed literally when KB throws it across to Rizzo. But then I come down, I see this huge line where Stuckey's in, and the rest of the media are there. And I'm like, how am I going to do this? So I started walking towards home plate. I was going to try to sneak in through the suites. And then I'm walking to the third base side. And at the time, they were the Cleveland Indians. So they open up the Indians clubhouse. So I start walking with those people. They all turn and go into the clubhouse, and I just walked right out onto the field. And so I was literally the first Chicago media man out there. I'm looking around. I'm like, how do I capitalize on this? Yeah. Where's Schwartz? Where's Rizzo? Well, they're not. None of them are out there. But it's John Cusack. It's Bill Murray. It's just these randos. But I'm looking up at 10,000 Cub fans. Who I'm like, this is unbelievable. I will never duplicate this ever by far. But I had my moment in the locker room as I sat with Rob Zastryzny on the floor in the corner, and like he was just like couldn't believe that this had happened to this rando reliever. Like he won the World Series, and I just sat there with my legs extended. There's a picture of me with all these beer cans around, and I just hung with Rob, who's still kicking around the major leagues now. All the other things. Anthony Rizzo turned me down.
So after the game?
Yeah, he did. I was waiting for him. He's talking to Ken Rosenthal forever. I'm like, Riz, I'm done. You're done. You're
done. 108 years. You're done.
Yeah, I'm like, you are not done. Okay.
Nobody said they were. I can't.
Literally nobody. Literally no one. Unbelievable stuff everywhere. Like,
yeah.
But Rizzo, I've done me. So ever since that moment, I was like, get him out of here. Now I want him back.
So I made a very bad decision that fall, and when my editor at Yahoo said, which games do you want me to put in for the Cubs, the credentials, I said, well, put me in for all the games at home. We had a newborn at the time. And then I said, well, and put me in, I don't know who else was in there. I said, put me in for this city, put me in for that city. And for some reason I said, well, I don't think the Indians are going to make it that far. Don't request a credential for me that far down the road.
Ooh.
And that's what happened.
Ouch.
Wow.
Ouch.
The home run, I was 10 feet away from Kerry Wood and his family watching it on that TV, and the look on his face when they hit that home run was 2003 running through his eyeballs. It was so bizarre, and I watched the champagne, which had just been marched into the Cubs clubhouse, wheeled back on the carts out, and went right down the hallway into the Cleveland clubhouse, and then the Cubs scored, and Zobrist is dancing, and they're all doing that whole thing, and the champagne went back. So 3 different times the cart's full of champagne.
Now, if you had that on a video, that would have broke the internet.
On a fast loop. Imagine how fast they had to tear down the plastic in the Cleveland clubhouse.
I remember to that story.
Fast.
I remember standing
as fast as they did in Game 6 of the 2003 NLCS.
Well, that's what I'm saying. In 2003, I remember in Game 7, the Cubs lose. We're on the concourse. I'm with these diehards. Ken Tarnoff, the biggest Cub fan on the planet. And they roll on a dolly like all the World Series T-shirts. And he just had the meltdown of all meltdowns. There are the shirts. I've been doing this. I mean, just completely lost it. I got to go home to my wife. My wife. Kenny, they'll get there someday. Don't you worry.
Speaking of sports gear, if you want to get fitted out in the best sports gear around, and I'm sure they still have plenty of cool World Series bobbleheads and everything, check out Foco.com. They have hoodies, shoes, signs, bobbleheads, and everything in between. And, it's football season. They have Aloha shirts, straw hats, polos, bags, everything you need for a game. I don't know if you need an Aloha shirt for the Bears game here in November, December, but you never know. They also provide a lot of our set decorations here at CHGO. So if you see something online, there's probably a good chance it came from FOCO. And check out FOCO.com or click the link in the description below. For all non-presale items, use the promo code CHGO and you'll get 10% off.
Was the Rizzo snub the reason you became a Sox fan?
No.
Just curious.
It's not why.
Also, check out our Die Hard program. Diehards get 20% off events, dope merch for all the teams, and you get a free shirt when you become a member. We also have that members-only Discord, which continues to grow and grow. We call it the CHGO Lounge.
Kev, tell them about X Golf.
And for the next and last tailgate, X Golf is giving away a $200 gift certificate to any of their Chicagoland locations. Find the X Golf nearest you at playxgolf.com/Chicagoland.
See how long it's been since I've been here? I forgot the ad read, was just staring ahead.
Bobby Knight would have chewed
like,
your ass out for that
you're
oversight.
ripping me right now. We won, but...
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining this week's episode of the Chicago Sports Podcast. Not sure if we'll be back here next Thursday because we've got that Bears-Panthers game.
I was already thinking about that.
Stay tuned.
Like the tailgate will be at that time, at this time.
And we possibly have a watch party, but not confirmed.
Oh, that'd be great if it wasn't confirmed.
Yeah. All right, everyone. For Luke Stuckmeyer, Mark Carman, Lawrence Benedetto, I'm Kevin Kaduk. This has been the Chicago Sports Podcast. We'll see you next time.
We all silly like the mayor.